Hello, everyone. I'm Olivier Poupeney from Orkes, and I'm happy to share with you a presentation that was done at Apidays Paris about how to build AI-enabled orchestration and how to use Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So I have a kind of agenda for that, and the first thing I would like to talk about is RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, and then the second part, orchestration, uh, what it means, and for all of them, all of you who are building distributed application, how orchestration can help you reach the level of scalability and performance that is required. And we'll see in the second part how orchestration brings value to a RAG framework. We're going to see in the third part, we're going to focus on Conductor, which is an orchestration platform built at Netflix and open source to be now at Orkes, where we bring some enterprise class features and especially AI related features that are interesting in our journey today. In order to understand very well, I put in place a kind of real world use case for financial institutions who would like to distribute some market data. So we'll deep dive into a demo, and we will dig into the demo to see how the orchestration of everything has been done and how we are querying the model with an adapted context. This is a recording session, so of course there is no Q&A, but you can reach me at olivier.poupeney@orkes.io if you have any question after this, after viewing this video. Thank you. First, I would like to introduce a little bit more about myself, who I am. I started my career like 30 years ago as a COBOL developer on mainframe at a time where it took like no less than 20 minutes to compile a program. So I learned a lot from that, believe me. Then I had to do my military service, and I have been recruited by the equivalent of the intelligence agency in France. And then I started my career with software vendors. The first one was a leader in a client server called PowerSoft. And the funny thing was that we were located at the CNIT, where Apidays Paris occurred, at the 4th level. So it's a little bit like back where everything started today. Then I moved to another tool that was one of the first Java application server called Silverstream. And I decided to start my entrepreneur journey building two products. The first one was a portal framework where I had the opportunity to develop a patent. And the second one was my first open source product called like a composite application framework. At the time, we were calling that. Today, a lot of people are talking about low code, which is exactly what we were doing at the time. I joined a leading collaboration platform called Symphony, very well known from financial institutions because it's highly secured and compliant. And more recently, because I was already pitching a lot about workflows and how to automate workflows between teams and between counterparts and partners, I joined Orkes that really has been created and founded by the creator of Netflix Conductor, and that was exactly the product I wanted to pitch. Product is fantastic. We are going to see that in a few. I'm also on the side of that member of the Technical Oversight Committee at FINOS. FINOS stands for FinTech Open Source Foundation. It's part of the Linux Foundation. And it's a very interesting work to be part of this team, looking and helping a lot of open source projects in the financial industry. enough talking about me. Let's jump into the Retrieval-Augmented Generation, what this term stands for, and why we are talking more and more about that. It is, in a sense, the next generation of AI-based solutions for sure. Why? Just because it unlocks a lot of LLM limitations. As you know, models, they can do only what they have been trained for, which is actually a big issue at one point. When you query your model, you can have a lot of inconsistency and really get some hallucinations in the response that is given. There is an inaptitude to add more data to the model. Once the model has been trained, it is over. It cannot get more data. And also in the way it works, there is a lack of visibility and explainability, so that you cannot really understand if you can trust the response that is given. At the same time, there is the rise of the prompt engineering, which is really great because we can really give rules to the model, to tell the model what exactly it has to be done. Some very famous prompt engineering can enable text to text, text to image, or non-text prompt as well. So where comes RAG here? It has been introduced by AI researchers at Meta, and it's very simple actually. It's really the ability to bring external resources, external data to the model. And for that, and there is a little schema here, before the LLM is processing and applying the rules that you gave with your prompt, the LLM will receive fresh data that will be its context to execute what it knows, what it can do. So when the question is sent to your RAG, the RAG is parsing the question and working with a vector database that will give back the relevant items. That relevant items plus the question will be part of the query that will be given to the model, so that the answer will be given in context. Orchestration is really a way to develop modern distributed applications. The first problem we see in distributed applications is really scalability. The network is unreliable. Everything in your transactional composition of services, everything can fail at one point. So you need to manage those failures, manage the fact that at one point you're in the middle of the transaction, this service is not responding. How to deal with that? Do you have to wait? Do you have to go to a compensation orchestration? Do you have to just ignore and continue the flow? Things like that are very difficult to manage if you have to do it in your own code. That's why orchestration platforms are here and help you to do the routing between services, help you to handle failures, help you also to limit the consumption of the APIs that are behind. And in the context of AI, you know that AI can be very costly if you constantly hit the models, and for that it's some kind of important to rate the limit of this consumption according to one orchestration, logical orchestration, so that you don't end up with a big invoice at the end of the month. It is also designed for change, meaning that once the orchestration is done, if you do it inside your own code and the business needs to have some kind of changes or adaptations, you need to go back to the full cycle, change your code, retest, redeploy, and that can take a lot of time and create a lot of technical debt. For that, an orchestration is really an extraction of all this routing into an orchestration platform, very easy to change. It's also able to integrate new systems when you want to do some new partners with some new providers. It's very easy to integrate things or to migrate an application that were a little bit more monolithic into something that is more distributed, because you can just isolate one part of your application, transform it into your orchestration, and then grow as much as the evolution of your orchestrations. So what orchestration brings to RAG? First, in order to really enter into a RAG framework, you need to index the content into a vector database. And for that, you can automate this indexation by scheduling some query to a data source, get the data, index the data, and put it into a vector database. The second part is when there is a query, orchestration can help you to first introspect into the vector database to get the data, the relevant data, prepare the context, and query then the LLM into one single task. And all the benefits of orchestration can be used, of course, when we are talking about AI-based workflow. Rate limits, compensation, failure on querying the model. More importantly, role-based access control, because this is really something an orchestration platform can bring. Who has access to the workflow? Who has access to query the model? This is something that you have out of the box. Conductor is well known to have been built at Netflix and maintained by Orkes. Of course, we're continuing to maintain the Orkes version, open source version, the Conductor open source version, but more importantly, we are also bringing some enterprise class features. That can be role-based access, as we just talked about before. It can be version of the workflow, it can be a scheduler, it can be everything that you need in order to deploy a workflow on production if you're from a small, middle size, or big corporation. Recently, we introduced the integration with AI providers. As you can see in this little screenshot, we have access to first the LLM providers, that can be Azure OpenAI, that can be OpenAI itself or Hugging Face, and vector database like Pinecone or Wave8, which is the one we're going to use in the demo in a few. We bring also a visual editor that is very important to not only to design, but to prototype and also to introspect the executions that have been done. Because by an execution, we can, if there is a failure somewhere, we can just look at the design and see exactly which task was in the problem, in error, and quickly go to the log associated to this task and see where exactly is the error. In a few seconds, you can really point to where is the problem on this particular workflow that can be very complex. So what is the use case we're gonna see now? The first, so I try to put a little schema here. It's let's say we are financial service industry, we are trader. Of course, we have to manage a portfolio, and we need to spend our time to sell and buy by collaborating with our counterparts. We also, when trades have been done, we need to work with the back office for all post-trade activities. But one important thing is to read the news, because if there are some news that are related to companies that we have in our portfolio, we need to make sure that we can take appropriate actions. It can be, oh yeah, I need to sell because this company is not doing well. Or, oh, there is news that is very positive, I need to buy more. Because the price is gonna probably raise soon. So all of this takes a lot of time for a trader. And this is where AI can be interesting here, and at the same time can also help the trader to have very quick and fast insights with companies that are based in its portfolio. For example, here, we're going to schedule the indexation of all the market news, and a workflow we're going to do that, get the market news from a market news provider, index it into a vector database that is the one here, Wave8. Then when the trader will at one point queries about a specific topic, it will trigger a second workflow that will query the model. But before the querying the model, the orchestration will get the context from the vector database and will bring the context to your model. Then everything can be sent back to the trader. We can send it as a message into his chat platform. If there are some ticker symbol, we can also get prices for each ticker symbols for the intraday and bring that back to the message. So the workflow can be very simple, can be very complex, can be a little different if we want the destination of that directly into my app on my trader desktop or in my chat tool. So everything is driven, piloted by the workflow itself. Let's see it in action. So I'm gonna stop the slides, and I build a little app, and when you know that this session is recorded, but when I was in the room at Apidays Paris, I asked the people to scan a QR code, and everyone were able to execute this application on their own phone. It is here. It is a very simple one, Market News Watcher, where we can just query three things. One is the Wall Street most valuable companies. The second is the performance of Royal Caribbean. And the third one is what is Snowflake's growth? Let's take let's say the second one, for example. So I click here. It's going to retrieve data and tell me, oh, Royal Caribbean Group has outperformed the market over the past 15 years by 5 to 35% on an annual basis, producing an average annual return of 16.77%. And I can click here as a trader. I can say, oh, I want to see that news. So I click and I go directly to the news that was the source of that. So very, very interesting, very fast. As a trader, I'm happy. And now let's see how this has been executed. And also, more importantly, how it has been designed. I'm going to go to my Orkes cloud platform. I'm going to log in with my Google credential. I have here an instance, a cluster of Conductor, and I'm going to go to see my Conductor. Creating a cluster is very easy. You just click on new cluster. I'm going to show you very quickly. It can be in your own cloud. It can be hosted by us, and you can decide on which cloud provider you want to install it, on which region, and what is the cluster capacity based on a standard or starter edition of Conductor. Let me go back to my workflow execution. I can see that there is a market news search that has been made. I can click here and I can see what has been done. There was a LLM search index task. What was the input? The input was a query with what is the performance of Royal Caribbean. Give the associated news URL as a href tag with a blank target so that the user can jump into a new page. So everything is not coded. It's just part of the query. We are using an embedding model provider, Azure OpenAI, and the model is embedding ADA 002. This is one of the standards that is provided on OpenAI. I can see the output of that is a text with the news itself. So how this has been used to feed the second task. That is, going to see of the input. We have here the question that has been also passed as an input. There is the context that we retrieved from the first task, and there is the prompt. Answer the question based on the context provided below. Only answer based on the context given below. If you do not know, say, sorry, I don't know. This is my prompt. So everything has been fed here, so that then we have a switch that is, do we have to send back directly, or do we send back to Symfony, which is the chat platform? If we send it back to Symfony, we create a chat room, we add the relevant members, and we send the message, we get the tickers, and we trigger a sub workflow that will get for each of one the intraday of each ticker. But as you can see in the execution, we didn't go that route, we went to the other route. The application on the other side, I'm going to open, is really like a very simple React application. Let me show you here. We import Orkes client and the workflow executor from SDK, that is a JavaScript SDK. There is server settings with our key ID, key secret, and server URL. And I hard-coded the questions, and just here, execute the flow with the workflow executor class. I get the name of the search of my workflow, and I execute my workflow with the question that I get, which is the one that has been clicked here. So it's very simple. This workflow can be triggered from any application. We have SDKs for JavaScript, for all front-end apps, but we have also from Java, for Java, for Python, for Go, for .NET. And also, of course, pure APIs if you need. So how now this has been executed, or it has been, designed. First, the first thing we had to do is to create an integration with AI provider. So I have my AI provider here, Azure OpenAI, and it's just a link, as you can see, with an API key, with an endpoint, and we have also here access to a certain number of models: GPT-35, DaVinci 003, Ada 002. The second thing is our vector database, and here it's the same thing. I just have my endpoint with an API key on my integration that I have here. If I go to the Wavy dashboard, I can see that this is my cluster. I can query my cluster. If I want to get the news, I can see that all the news are here. You can see the first three is the Wall Street best performance companies. The second one is the topic about energy and transportation, about Royal Caribbean. This is what we retrieved, actually. The second one is about Snowflake stock, etc., etc. So all of those have been indexed by another workflow. So once I have those two, I have my prompt, and I define my prompt. We saw it in the introspection of the execution. I have my prompt here that says, answer the question based on the context provided below with the rule, and we put all the data here, and we want the answer. And that's it. Very simple to define. Once I have those two integrations, that prompt, I can do any workflows that can do anything with the model. So let's go back to the workflow definition. I'm going to search for my market news search, and I can see that's the definition of each task. The first task we are using, it's a LLM search index task. We are using our Wave8db integration. We are going to the news. The news is the index that we have here. It's a class in Wave8, same thing. Then I want to use an embedding model to do the indexation. And I go to the next task that is, I want an LLM provider, the DaVinci model, the prompt QNews that we saw previously. The question is coming as an input of the workflow, and the context is brought back by the execution of the previous task. So with those two tasks, we did everything that we needed to get the answer. And we can directly, as a default result, go back to the end. Yeah, that's, of course, you can do a lot of things. It can be scheduled, it can be, so we are providing here a scheduler. We have the definition of users, groups, and access control. I could talk about the product for hours, believe me, but I know that this recording has a time limit that we are reaching right now. So I'm gonna go back to my slides. And I'm going to thank you for watching this video. And I would like especially to thank everyone who showed up in the room during API days. As I said at the beginning, the application has been executed, the sample application has been executed like more than 120 times, which means that there was a lot of people in the room. And we got those 120 execution in less than 2 minutes. It was a very great experience for everyone. And if you're interested, come back to us, orkes.io. We have a playground. You can try it by yourself. Thank you so much for attending this video, and talk to you soon.